A soldier walked through the freezing mountains of Korea, every step heavier than the last. Behind him, his unit was surrounded, supplies were low, and the enemy was closing in. In that moment, he realized, no training or weapon could save them from what was coming. How could the strongest army in the world get stuck in a war it could never win? If you want to see history like never before, hit like and subscribe. Don't miss these stories. America entered Korea in 1950, confident they could win quickly. The UN forces, led by the US, had retaken Seoul fast. Victory seemed just around the corner, but as the troops moved further north, they underestimated the strength and resilience of the North Korean army. The soldiers were well-trained, motivated, and used every advantage the harsh terrain provided. The mountains were steep, the cold was brutal, and the winter winds cut through clothing like knives. Soldiers had to fight not only the enemy, but nature itself, which slowed supply lines, froze equipment, and tested their endurance to the limit. Planes and tanks gave the Americans an advantage, but on the ground, the war became a battle of endurance and patience. The North Koreans often retreated strategically, drawing US troops into traps that stretched their supplies and energy to the breaking point. Roads became icy death traps. Rivers froze over and melted unpredictably, and bridges essential for moving food and ammunition were constantly destroyed. Every gain forward came with a cost. In the early months, the Americans believed air superiority would decide the war, but the enemy adapted. Guerrilla attacks, hidden artillery positions, and ambushes turned every advance into a fight for survival. Soldiers were forced to navigate unknown paths, often at night, while fearing an attack at any moment. Every hill taken was often given up the next day as new waves of enemy forces approached. Here's a thought. If you were a commander in those mountains, what would you have done differently? Comment below. I want to hear your strategy. Then, in November 1950, China entered the war. Thousands of soldiers crossed the Yalu River under cover of darkness, bringing fresh forces into a battle the Americans thought they had under control. Therefore, US forces, expecting an easy fight, suddenly faced a much larger and more determined enemy. The cold, the terrain, and the relentless attacks turned what was expected to be a short war into a grueling stalemate. Technology and weapons were strong, but in Korea's mountains, planning, courage, and persistence often mattered more than sheer firepower. The war was also shaped by politics. Pressure from home made retreat almost impossible. Generals had to make decisions knowing that public opinion could punish them for even a small setback. Therefore, leaders were forced to fight a war that was increasingly unwinnable. Soldiers were exhausted, casualties mounted, and hopes of a quick victory disappeared. Victory wasn't just about guns or training. It was about understanding the land, anticipating the enemy, managing supply lines, and enduring physical and mental challenges. America, powerful as it was, misjudged nearly every aspect of the conflict, learning painful lessons the hard way. The Korean War is called the Forgotten War. But maybe it's forgotten because its lesson is clear. Even the strongest can be stopped when the land, the enemy, and human determination collide. Which single mistake do you think doomed America from the start? Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. If this story grabbed you, check out my other videos, especially the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, where we dive deep into another shocking moment in history.